there's a whole lot of yikes in this conversation. It's not what I was expecting at all. How, pray tell, do you write a slow burn that is this short? You could take the bones of this and make a good book. So our main character's last name is Broccoli. Like I said, ultimately what I read this weekend was a good chunky Stephen King novel. Hi everybody, and welcome to this crazy weekend where I'm going to try and read everything I am behind on, which is all of this plus 3 books on my Kindle. I probably have 3 or 4 videos in here plus research for another video. So I'm just gonna talk through it all here, and I'm gonna get through as much of this as I possibly can this weekend, because that is the goal. So on my Kindle, I have House of Darkness, House of Light, all 3 volumes. I only want to get through 1 volume this weekend, and I have The Haunted, which I need to get through this weekend. These are both about the Conjuring case that Ed and Lorraine Warren were involved in. House of Darkness, House of Light is by one of the women that was actually a kid during the whole thing, and then this of course is the Warrens, there we go, the Warrens account of what happened. And I just need to get through this and volume 1 this weekend. Those I will be taking notes on. I also have Running Mates and Housemates that I need to get through this weekend. Praying for Your Future Husband, which is a book group that I tried to start and failed spectacularly and over the holidays, so I need to finish that, get that up, all of that. So that's what's on my Kindle. As far as everything physical, I have a ton. I'm gonna try and divide it by video. Like I said, I'm doing research for the Conjuring case, which will be a involved, detailed video over on my paranormal channel. And all the horror will be vlogged and on my paranormal channel as well as on here. So we have These Fleeting Shadows, which is young adult. It's the only young adult in this. Most of these are middle grade. I have Hide and Shriek. This is a middle grade novel. And then I have Don't Hide and Seek, sorry, which is a short story children's horror anthology. I forgot the word anthology for a second. I'm still exhausted. Okay. Then I have The Poppy War, which I'm just reading when I was in Seattle to visit my brother with my mother and grandmother. We went to a local bookstore and I found this. It's amazing. It's worth the hype. I've already bought the second book, so I can just start it right away. I'm about halfway through and I've been waiting to get the second book to finish it, so I need to finish this weekend. These 3, which are a part of another horror vlog. This is an adult horror vlog. So I have House at the Bottom of the Lake, which I've heard amazing things about. And it's also really short, so I'm confident I can get through that. I have The Further, which I'm about that far through. This is very dense. This is very intense. This is very heavy, and not because it's horror, but because of the real world circumstances that it surrounds. It's fantastic though, but I need to finish this because it needs to go back to the library. And then we have The Haunting of Lee Harker. This has become a new instant by author for me. This is the 4th book I've read by her, I think. So that's getting around this weekend. I will devour that once I start. Come With Me. Oops. We've Come With Me. I just picked this up at the library. It sounded really good, so I figured I'd try this author. Then we have a book I stumbled into at the thrift store, which is Ghost Buddy, Zero to Hero. It's obviously a children's book. It's hopefully a horror. I've never read anything from these authors, but yeah. Then we have 2.5 Princes, which also sounded interesting. Actually, I've seen this floating around online for a while and I've wanted to pick it up, so I figured I'd try it. Why not? You know, likely lately I haven't really been reading that much YA, but I just read an amazing YA, so let's try it. And then we have Ghost Encounter. Chilling, moody, captivating. And this is an adult novel, again by an author I've never read before, so yeah, I don't know. It seems interesting, it seems different. I'm excited to get into it. And that is my extremely optimistic weekend reading vlog. Now it's Friday. I don't have a ton of plans this weekend. I think we're going to be meeting up with my godmom at some point, but that won't be more than a couple of hours. And mostly this weekend, I need to read. I need to get prepared for next week. Start with House at the Bottom of the Lake, because I've wanted to read this forever and I've heard fantastic things about this from multiple people. So I'm gonna go ahead and get into this because I really want to read this. Okay, I just got to, where am I? Chapter 6, and I don't know. I don't know yet. Like, this is definitely a different setup. This feels like the middle of a romance novel and not a horror novel. I don't know. I'm intrigued enough to give it a couple more chapters. Not what I was expecting. Okay, I'm on chapter 11 and I am impressed. 200 pages and it is a slow burn. How does one do that? I don't know, but I'm thoroughly impressed and I get it now. This is very much gothic vibes. This is very much possessed, haunted vibes. They just found the house. They are agreeing to go get scuba gear. The house is furnished, blah, 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 blah. But like, how? How do you write a slow burn that is this short? I do not know, and I'm thoroughly impressed. It's still less than 200 pages long, and yet I'm still getting a sense of foreboding. And okay, I get it now. I get it now. I get it now. Okay, so this is an adult novel, and our main characters are both 17, and I always feel weird when we have sexual situations happening when we have not adult main characters. Just off screen, please. Off screen. This is not by far the weirdest thing I've read in any way, shape, or form. Like, it's still very what it is, but it's still weird and abstract, and like basically they're falling in love with each other, but they're also becoming obsessed with the house, and the house is like a drug. And I'm wondering if it's all like a giant metaphor. I hope not, because I feel like that would cheapen the story, but I don't know. This feels like one of those kinds of books. It feels like the kind of book you'd be given in a college English class with a overzealous professor that thinks that everything is profound and brilliant and art. Like, it's just, it gives me those vibes, if you know what I mean. And then there's the elephant in the room. There is minor, explicit, on-screen sexual acts. And that is uncomfortable, to put it mildly. And personally, don't do it. I do not think that you should have characters, minor characters or major characters, on screen in YA or adult novels. This is an adult novel, not a new adult novel, but a full actual adult novel that are under the age of 18, that are engaging on screen intimately. I'm sorry, I gotta be careful because it censors and things. I mean, Stephen King does this too, and it creeps me out even more with Stephen King because there's the whole how Stephen King talks about women and their bodies thing. But like, and there's a little bit of this and that in this book as well. However, when that's happening, it's coming from the perspective of a 17-year-old boy. So like, I can give a little bit of slack with that one because, you know, he's a 17-year-old boy. I mean, even the makeout scene just went a little too far for me. And like, if you've been here a little bit, I need to do like I need to do a romance video. But like, I read some spicy stuff and some like extremely spicy stuff that does not make me ick. Like, this made me ick. So let's just stop having minors involved in sexual situations in our content. Okay, thanks, bye. Okay, book number 2, Hide and Don't Seek. I keep saying Shriek, and I know that's wrong, but I have another book around here that is titles, but I liked this. It's a children's short story collection. It's definitely not for adults, but it's still lots of fun. And again, like I say every single time, why don't we have illustrations like this in adult novels? But yeah, I'm giving it 3 stars. I thought it was fine. I thought it was good. I thought it was great. It was a great introduction to horror, to different horror styles, to different types of horror tropes for kids and adults, really. I mean, if you want to like get into horror you've never done before, you're too scared, picking up a kid's anthology is a good place to start. And it's all by the same author. So I really want to read more of her work. So yeah. This is what I remember from reading these sort of books as a kid. It has like that whimsy just in the like text itself. It's very whimsical. So basically this kid, he's about to turn 12. His mom just remarried to his stepdad and they bought a house together, and he doesn't want to move into the house because he thinks it's creepy, and turns out it is haunted, and he ends up finding a friend that's a ghost who's his same age. And it's just these 2 boys having fun, and one of them's a ghost, and it is fun and it is cute and it is okay. Guys, we have the first DNF of the series. By the way, this is called Ghost Eaters, not Ghost Encounters. I don't know why it said Ghost Encounters. Dyslexia is fun. Anyway, this book. The thing that makes me really angry is there's a good book in here somewhere. Like, you could, our main character who is trying to get away from this person who's an addict, and he ends up ODing and dying, and then she takes this experimental drug that will let her see ghosts. That sounds like a really interesting premise, right? Like, that is very interesting. It's also set in Richmond, Virginia, which is a hugely historic town in the US. It literally has been involved in every domestic war on US soil, which is 3. Okay, not every domestic war because there's a French in, yeah, okay. Every domestic war that has been on the East Coast in the United States. The Revolution, the War of 1812, the Civil War, all of it was somewhere connected to to this place in Virginia. And I don't know how I want to put this. This happens in the first chapter, but after the prologue. And okay, it's important that we talk about the negative aspects of US history. I mean, the further, still haven't completed this, it's still incredible. It still talks about the concentration camps that Japanese Americans were forced into because they were Japanese. It was wrong, it was racially motivated, and it was unconstitutional, and it was fucked up. It should have never happened during World War II. This is a real thing that happened, and that's where this book is partially based. There is a way to talk about these dark, heavy, horrible things that happened in the past in horror, in science fiction, in fantasy, and talk about them, discuss them, explain them, divide them, dissect them. You know, she's on a blind date with a guy that's not going well. And then she starts talking about the history of the building and how it was a kitchen for a slave plantation and how terrible the slaves were treated. But instead of coming off mildly humanely, it comes off very mansplainy. I don't know how else to put it. It doesn't come off in a genuine, this is what happened to these people, this is horrible and it was wrong way. It comes off in a, I am superior to you because I know the history and you don't, you uncultured swine. That's how it comes off, and it's just like, we can acknowledge that. We can acknowledge that this was a building that was a slave quarters and that these people, these human beings, were treated horribly, horribly wrong. We can have that conversation. but not like this. And I got a little bit further into the story. I got to the point where she takes the pill, and the whole book feels like she needs therapy. Not like she needs this pill, not like she needs to do seances, not like she needs to talk to ghosts or commune with the dead or the ancestors or whatever, or needs to teach white men about their history. We are not going to treat the stories of enslaved peoples as fixtures in our narrative. So I'm DNFing Come With Me for now. It is not a permanent DNF. So this is the story of a man who's grieving and learned this secret after his wife dies. And it is intense, to put it mildly. This is also the first book I've ever read that has the like parts that make sense, that's not like really, really big. Like for instance, the Poppy War is divided into 2 parts. We basically have the part where she's training and then the part that is the war and stuff. So that makes sense. But this actually uses it narratively, which I've never seen before, and I'm super fascinated by that. And I have other books by this author that I'm gonna try later. So like part 1, and then we have chapter 1, and then chapter 1 is broken up into parts. It's very stream of consciousness, very flowing, very heavy, obviously, because this man just lost his wife in a tragic incident and he's dealing with all of that, plus he's uncovered a secret about her, and this is written as if it's written to her. So it's really, really fascinating, but it's just too heavy right now. I'm already reading a very, very heavy book, and the further I just can't also read this too. Like I said, so it's going back to the library for now. I will pick it up again later in the future. I do apologize for the blinding light. There's not much I can do about the sun currently. I have to hang curtains, and that is just not gonna happen today. Okay, but I have read 3 books since the last time I've updated you. 2 of them I had on my Kindle for months, and apparently I just had a couple chapters left in both of them. Oops. That's what happens when you get stuck on a train for 13 hours. Anywho, and this guy, which was fantastic. Once again, this is like what you want for middle grade horror. So this is Hide and Seekers. Dyslexia and words that are similar sometimes are hard. But anyway, fantastic. 4 stars all the way. So good. So good. Not like, this is also definitely the kind of thing an adult can enjoy. Creepy premise, good story, interesting dynamic, interesting how like stuff is playing out behind the scenes for these kids. Really, really well written. Highly recommend. I want to read more about this author. So that's 4 stars. Okay, I don't know where that footage went. It just went poof into thin air. Anywho, so I just want to clarify 3 books that I read. So I read 2 on Kindle, and then I read 1 paperback. So the paperback that I read is Friends on the Other Side. It is in the Disney Chills series. I was going to do like a whole video on them because last year I think I did a whole video or I had I have the first one, Part of Your Nightmare, in a reading blog, and I've been looking for them and waiting for my library to get the entire series in to do that. So I went ahead and I read that, and I don't want to read the whole series. They're definitely not the kind of thing adults can enjoy. It is very much goosebumps for Disney villains. And it was really disappointing because Dr. Facilier is one of my favorite villains of all time. And yet, even he couldn't save this book. It's just, they're borderline middle grade, elementary, middle grade children's horror, and I think the thing that makes me the most angry and frustrated is you could do a lot with these villains that the author just just don't do. The author just doesn't do. So yeah, I went ahead and gave that 2 stars, and I'm really sad and disappointed because I really, really, really wanted it to be good. But it's just not for adults. And then I read, and this one is weird because on Kindle Unlimited it has one name, and on Goodreads it has another. I don't know why that is, but that is the book that went directly from my Kindle to my Goodreads. On Storygraph it has the same title, so I don't know what's going on. But on Goodreads it is A Love Unexpected, and on Kindle Unlimited it is Running Mates. I gave this 3 stars. I thought it was fine. I thought it was basically a generic romance novel. Nothing amazing, nothing terrible, nothing wrong with it. And then I read book 2, which is the same on both. I mean, it has a different cover and everything, but it's the same on both, which is Housemates. And again, I thought that was fine. I gave that 3 stars. I thought it was cute. I thought it was enjoyable. Generic, fun, lighthearted romance read. And I actually forgot some of it. Like I said before, both of these are books that I read. We took the train out to see my brother in Seattle, and on the way back, the train decided, every single train in North America decided to break down in front of us, and our Amtrak train was over 13 hours late getting into Chicago, and then we were over 12 hours late leaving Chicago. So I had a ton of time to read, and I just devoured the entire series, and I read a ton while we were on the train and or in the lounge in the train station in Chicago. So I only had a couple of chapters left on both of those, but they're fine. They're totally enjoyable, nothing wrong, great middle of the road romance read. So yeah. Yes, I'm wearing the same sweatshirt as I was yesterday. I had an accident, and this is the only one that is currently not completely dirty. So anyway, I just finished this. I have learned, I think this is the 3rd book by this author. I don't like this author's writing. I don't know. I've tried. Like I said, I think this is the 3rd book I've tried to read by this author, and I don't vibe with this author at all. Not my thing. I've tried a million times, but I just don't vibe with this author. Okay, so we've reached the end of this. It is several days later. My life has been lifing a lot lately. Anyway, I wanted to talk through how many books I read, how I did it, and all of that fun stuff. I even have charted everything out here. So I read or completed 9 books this past weekend, which is an insane number. Don't get me wrong, but really truly what I did was read like a good chunky Stephen King novel. That's basically what I did this weekend, was read like a good chunky Stephen King novel from beginning to end. The 9 sounds really, really, really impressive, but that's ultimately not what I actually pulled off. So I'm gonna break it all down. And before we go any further, I read about a book a day, give or take. It's a habit that I've built for myself. I'm always reading something. I'm always either listening to a podcast or an audiobook when I'm doing various things, working, doing chores, doing research, a lot of boring things that I don't need to be like fully paying attention to or are very, very boring and mind-numbing. I'm generally reading or listening to a podcast, which is also how I can get through a lot of books. I don't generally speed up my podcasts. I don't generally speed up my audiobooks or my podcasts, quite frankly. So there's that. But yeah, so that, and I just wanted to break all this down because I thought it'd be really interesting. So as for books that I fully completed from beginning to end, that are adult-sized novels, I have 2. I read and completed A House at the Bottom of a Lake, and There They Are, the Shadows, I think is that title. I'm not completely sure. And I've already forgotten half the stuff that happens in that book because it's just that unmemorable. So there's that. I read 4 children's novels, 3 of which I read in less than 2 hours. So that is Don't Hide and Seek in the Cabinet, I think is the full title, which is the short story collection. Then Friends on the Other Side, which is the Disney Chills book. I've decided I'm not continuing with the series because it's just meh. But that one was also very quick. And then of course we have, I'm pulling this one up because it's really, so it is Ghost Buddy From Zero to Hero. So all 3 of those I read in the span of about an hour and a half each. I can speak, I swear I can speak. So there's that. And then the Hide and Seekers, that was probably the same length and the same amount of time as a house at the as a house at the bottom of a lake. Why is that title so hard for me to say? I don't know. So they're both about 4-ish hours, give or take. So there's that. And then as far as books I DNF'd 2. Ghost Eaters, which is horrible, as y'all know. And then of course Follow Me, which is the one book that I'm going to read again later. I just don't have the space to read it right now. And then of course I finished 2 books. So I finished either, I'm sorry, I have to look it up because it's such a weird title on Goodreads, and it also links into the series. It's weird. So either Running Mates or A Love Unexpected, which I read the last 3 chapters of, I think, and then Housemates, which I read the last 4 chapters of, I think. I just didn't realize I was so far into both of these books. I remember I had started them, but didn't remember I was that far in, and I completed both of those. So, but more serious stuff is coming here shortly, I promise. But yeah, all right, that's everything I read this weekend. I hope you liked this new video thing I decided to try, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.